Welcome to the CHOW Podcast, hosted by Animal Friends of Wyoming County, where our mission is to help care for animals held by the Wyoming County Animal Shelter and promote responsible pet care in Wyoming County.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Sam Goodell. I am the president of Animal Friends of Wyoming County, and you are listening to our very first podcast, the CHOW Podcast. CHOW is an acronym for Canine Health, Ownership, and Wellness. It is an educational program or project that we are developing under Animal Friends of Wyoming County, and I'll give you a little introduction to who we are. Animal Friends of Wyoming County is a 501c3 nonprofit community organization made up of Wyoming County, New York residents with a desire and passion to help animals in our county. Our main goal is to promote animal health awareness and promote the dogs at the Wyoming County Animal Shelter. We raise funds and create programs to help and care for unwanted dogs at the animal shelter. We are organized by a board of directors, all of us volunteering our time and our God-given gifts and talents. I am the head of that board, and some of the things that we do, other than like fundraisers and events and things like that, is doing projects such as this. We have a couple programs under our belt, the Spay Our Stray Program, which helps fund the medical needs for the dogs at the Wyoming County Animal Shelter. And we have a Pets for Vets program that's our way of giving back to local veterans and active servicemen and women in our county, just a way to ease the financial burden of adopting a dog. So those are a couple things that we do at Wyoming County Animal Friends. So, let's see. This CHOW project has been a personal passion of mine. I've been working on it for about just over a year now. And doing this podcast is definitely something I've been looking forward to a lot. So I hope you get as much enjoyment and education from it as we are filming it. So I would like to start off by introducing my great co-host. From the Kelly Files.
The Kelly Files.
Kelly Files.
Hi, I am Kelly Shearing. I am the media director for Animal Friends of Wyoming County. I retired this past March and was looking for something to do, and I grew up on a dairy farm, so I've always loved animals. I met Justa, I think, back in 1997, and I've always thought of the animal shelter when I drove by from work to go home. And so I saw an ad in the paper, or I think on your Facebook page, actually, and I reached out to Sam back in June, I believe, showing interest in becoming the media director, and that's where it all began for me.
Yes, and Kelly has been an amazing addition to our board and our board is filled with incredible people. And as you listen to this podcast from time to time, you're going to get different board members coming on here or there to be some of the guest co-hosts and things like that. So I am looking forward to having every one of my board directors to come on board and share their story and their thoughts and get their perspective on some of these topics that we have going on for our podcast. So, let's see. Today we are starting off this podcast with a very special guest. I am actually very excited that we have her here. She has been a rock in so many different ways for the community.
To you, that's all.
A rock to the community, a rock to my life, a rock to everything. And she just so happens to be my mother. She has served Wyoming County for well over 25 years now. And she is one of the main reasons most of us have gotten together to create Animal Friends of Wyoming County. So I'm going to introduce her just briefly. I'll let her talk a little bit more about herself. But I'm also going to acknowledge the other guests we have in front of us, too. He has started working here, I believe, in 2018, was it? 2017? 2018. He is her right-hand man, and you might hear him from time to time when you call into the shelter or when he goes out there to serve you a warning ticket. So, I guess I'm going to start off with, I'll start off with Daryl, actually. Daryl Klump, the animal control officer, deputy, what's your title?
Daryl Klump, Animal Control Deputy for Wyoming County. I've been on the job just right around 4 years now, working with Justa and helping Sam with the Animal Friends.
Awesome, awesome.
Tell us about you.
Yes. Give us a little brief bio
Some
of
background.
you. Who is Daryl?
I'm a two-war combat vet. After that, I was a truck driver for a little while, and then I become a member of this great county, and now I'm working here down at the shelter and helping Justa the best I can.
He has 2 kids
Yeah, I have a boy and a girl.
and
Keep me
very
on my
involved
toes.
with North Cheva's.
Fire department, yeah.
Yep.
I'm also a member of the volunteer fire department and a member of the rescue squad.
So he's very committed to the community.
Cool, awesome. So, let's see. Do you have any personal passions of yours other than rescuing dogs?
I would say I'm a pretty big I like everything outdoors. I'm a big hiker. I love to camp, and I do hunt occasionally.
Okay, cool. All right, and Ms. Justa Goodell, why don't you introduce yourself to the world?
Okay. My name is Justa Goodell. I'm the Animal Control Officer for Wyoming County. I started back in 1997 when we were just a shelter in the middle of dirt road. Was the size of a chicken coop with about 6 light bulbs that hung off a wire. And started the job and thought, oh my gosh, what did I get into? And we have evolved into what we are today, which for a little shelter, a little county, a very rural county, and relatively a poor county, we have a shelter that is a good example of country folk. So I was brought up in Silver Springs. My parents are both still living, Larry and Sally Truesdell, and have always been a Wyoming County person. Never lived anywhere but here. My husband and I were married in 1979. Had 3 boys, Sam being my youngest, all big dog owners and animal lovers. They were brought up to respect their right to own a dog by taking care of it. And so that's kind of where it all began. How I got this job was a fluke. In some ways, there was an advertisement that they were looking for a dog control officer. My husband kept pushing the paper in front of me, saying, you ought to apply. At the time, I was a bus driver for Letchford School, and I really didn't think I had any qualifications to do this job. So I did, on a whim, I applied, and after 3 different interviews, I was given the appointment as a dog control officer. And then the struggle began to upgrade where we were. One of the reasons they told me they hired me was I had insight on what the future might need and not just stay with the same old, that we needed to advance. And the world was changing as far as their attitude and appetite for domestic animals, and people were more and more aware of neglect and the need to have a shelter to help a lost dog find its way home. And the shelter we had at the time that they were renting was in dire need of an upgrade. So they hired me because they thought I had a vision for a future that would be an upgrade. And with a lot of work, we are where we are today. And some good people on the board years ago. That board has changed a lot since then.
The board of
Supervisors in Wyoming County. A lot of them are gone or have retired, and so there's a new board. But one of the things I can say that I have noticed over and over and over again, that I've always had a very supportive board at the county level. If I go in with a need and I can justify the need, they always give me the pass to go for it, and they help me make it. So make that happen and be possible. I don't go in and ask for much. I'm pretty resourceful, but when I do go in, I've always had full support. So it's been quite a journey, but it's been a good one. And I've never considered this a job. It's more of a way of life. And I think if people could love what they do a better job of it. I don't think can't imagine if I was to do my life over again, would I change a thing? Probably not a thing. So that's kind of where I am with my work. So
Cool.
I have no intentions right now of making a retirement. it is coming closer and closer, but I'm feeling like I'm going to be leaving it into some good hands. So it's getting easier and easier for me to see that happen.
Cool. So what are your passions other than obviously taking care of the dogs that come in and out of the shelter and doing education on your own in regards to dogs and animals and how to properly take care of them? But what are some of your? Do you have any other passions beside animals?
Sure. I'm an avid gardener. If I'm not here working and I'm not in the house doing something with my dogs, I'm on my hands and knees digging in a lot of dirt. I've made too many flower beds for Sam to inherit, but I love doing it. I love painting. I like anything to do with remodeling. We have a pool. I love our pool. Until COVID come, I was pretty involved in our church since COVID, and I've had COVID a couple times. I'm hesitant to become involved in larger community gatherings because I don't want to get sick again. I'm an avid reader and learned on my own how to crochet. Well, I did have a little help from a friend, but now I've taken it to another level. I'm getting better at that. So play guitar, learning how to play the ukulele right now at 62. I love watching movies. I love playing games. I'm trying to think of all the things, I just love being alive, period. There's not much I don't like. So
That's good. It's good to have hobbies outside of your job all the time.
Yeah.
And the job could get very chaotic, and I'm sure we're going to touch upon that a little bit here and there. So I guess our main topic of discussion for this first episode is kind of a brief history of the shelter, where it's come from. Justa, you've alluded to it a little bit here and there in your bio, and let's talk about the beginning, where the shelter come from to where it is now, and any of the volunteering and how the animal friends get involved, and what's on your perspective when you started.
So if you talk to anybody my age that had anything to do with this business or this work, you would hear probably the same stories. We started in a small building. It was not in good shape. There wasn't funding. More public awareness was happening, and I think even though we were in a really rundown building, I think it was a pretty good perspective in all counties, the same place. I would go to Genesee County back when I think they were on, Mill Street. That building they thought was terrible. I thought mine was much worse than theirs. And I remember going to Livingston County when they were, it used to be a meat butcher place, and they had converted it. It had been every one of these buildings were converted. And during the process of us coming here, Genesee County built a new one, Livingston County built a new one, and then we were established here. So we all kind of gradually, within a matter of a couple years, evolved from the rundown buildings to a better facility. As far as Wyoming County, this building that we're in right now had been for sale, and I was looking for property. They kind of put me on a task, the Board of Supervisors, to see if I could find something when I was out and about, anything that was for sale that could be converted. So I would go by this place 3 or 4 times a day, either picking up a dog or doing business at the county or going up to Wethersfield Road to the old shelter. And all of a sudden there was a for sale sign on this building. So I approached. It was owned by Don Beck, and he was their new business on Route 39 is, what is that new business over
Duval.
there? Yep. That's where. So that's where Don Beck was. He owned this building, and I think that's what they worked out of was this building. Then they built the one on Route 39 and they put this one up for sale. So I approached the board, and it was too much money, and the board, didn't feel that this was a building that could that they wanted to invest in, and county owning more property. So it got started. It was being rented then by a couple people, and so I felt a little deflated because I couldn't find anything. Everything I did find, there was a dead end. It didn't work, and then it went for sale again. So I stopped to talk to Don Beck at his new business on Route 39 outside of Cast Isle. Kind of did some begging, and Actually, I started to cry. I was so exhausted from trying to find another place. And he said, "Can you give me a couple days and I'll get back to you?" So I gave him my number and went home. And the next thing I know, he is gifting this building to the county. They did pay some taxes on it, but it was a small fraction of what was actually owed to buy the building. Little did I know, he found out we had to do quite a bit of renovating. He was having trouble selling it because it couldn't be used for a home because it's in a flood zone. Hard to believe. We've got a big creek behind us, but there's a gully, but it's zoned for flood, and the weight, the trusses on the ceiling weren't sturdy enough for snow if to put people in it. So the county had to do some changes. So we can't live here, but we could have the shelter here. So it was a perfect way for him to get rid of a piece of property he was struggling to and to give us what we were looking for. So it was a good investment for the county. And they come in, and my husband is the one who designed. That's probably why I'm so attached, because he's gone now. But my husband was the one who designed the framing work of the pens out back, the way they are assembled and the way the pump system works. We donated a lot of stuff, a tub, a washing area, a washer and dryer. I think we donated the dryer, not the washer. The county bought the washer. So it kind of become a family thing. We did a lot of painting to get ready and had a big grand opening. And since then we've been here. So I'm a little invested because he's so much a part of the woodwork and stuff here. But so that's what brought us landed here. And since then, it's just been nothing but good stuff. Good people volunteering, and the beginnings of Animal Friends. Is that okay to talk about right now?
Yeah, if you
Okay.
want to.
So we had a lot of dogs that would come in, and the state law is that a dog, if it's unspayed or unneutered and it leaves the building here, it has to have a deposit done. We did work through a voucher system for a while, and then that didn't work out with the state, and one thing led to another. And now it's just down to, for every dog that leaves our shelter that's unspayed or unneutered, they have to sign a contract. They have to leave a deposit of $35 that they get back once they neuter. We give them a time frame to get it done, and then they get their $35 back. But we were seeing, most of the time, not always, but there was multiple times when no one redeemed their $35. And I would try to follow up by making a phone call. "Hi, this is Justa, and you adopted, a little border collie. This is an example, and she's now old enough to be spayed, but you have not sent in your spay neuter certificate, so you can get your $35 back." And we'd find that most likely they didn't get spayed, which meant more litters out there, more unspayed animals, more litters. So we had a small group of people. Tom Purcell, who wrote a book and does his own podcasting. He's also the guy that we use for a behavioralist on our court cases. Tom, he wrote the book, The Art of the Dog. He started volunteering. A gal by the name of Bridget Mertzak from Castile started coming down and volunteering. And I was expressing my concern about so many dogs leaving here unspayed and unneutered. So they started with just neutering males because it was cheaper at that time. And we would neuter as many males that left here as we could by how much money we could raise for spaghetti dinners. We had a little yard rummage sale out front on the deck. We did basket raffles and things like that. But it really was spearheaded by Bridget Mertzak and Tom Purcell. We did have a couple other real bottom line volunteers. Verna Brooks from Orangeville, and there was a gal, Lisa Rennick, was very involved at the time. So they were... we had a young girl named Autumn Maxwell. There was a few others that Deborah Stouffer was one that came down, and Jennifer Wright. They all were kind of the beginnings of a small volunteer group that started raising money to neuter and spay. And we actually kept the money at one point in a jar. And as the bills would come in, we would pay. And then it got to the point where we had enough to open an account, and they opened it, not me, in their name. And it just has evolved into that. We were not a 501c3 for several years. We were just going a little at a time. Then a gentleman by the name of Robert Graham come and volunteered, and he had been really active in helping other groups become 501c3, a non-for-profit, which is a little bit of paperwork, but he said once you do them, you know it. So he helped us then become a group, and that's when we formed Animal Friends of Wyoming County. At one point, we were called Spay Our Stray, and that's kind of the name that we used. But that's really kind of how we, started. That was very, very tiny, with no intention of ever being this big, and it just turned into that. And I feel it's a good example in a small community like ours, a rural community, and a relatively poor community. Anybody, if you stick to it, can make something really big happen. And to me, this group is big. One of the best, probably 501c3s in the area, raising money to take care of animals, and at the rate they raise and the money they spend is just amazing. But it's an example to me that if you're a volunteer in any organization, and I encourage you to find your passion and find an organization to volunteer in, that you can make just about anything happen. And that when I look back and see the transition, that's really kind of amazing to me. It just, again, proof of the human spirit. When you decide to do something, you can just do it and you just keep going. So, yeah. Yeah.
So one thing I just want to clarify briefly is that the Justa operates and manages the Wyoming County Animal Shelter, and the Wyoming County Animal Shelter is a municipality. It's owned by the government. It's owned by the taxpayers, and they're in charge of the loose dogs, homeless dogs, enforcing laws related to dogs and agriculture and things of that nature. The volunteer group, people that volunteered at the Wyoming County Animal Shelter, they're the ones that started off with like the Spay Our Stray, they were called. And then as the group evolved and they wanted to become a little more official, that's when they transitioned into Animal Friends of Wyoming County. So Animal Friends of Wyoming County is separate from the Wyoming County Animal Shelter and the Wyoming County Animal Control. So, the money that's raised from Animal Friends as a 501c3 nonprofit group is a charitable group. They sponsor the dogs at the Wyoming County Animal Shelter. That's what we do. That's what I'm the head of. We sponsor the dogs at the Wyoming County Animal Shelter for its medical needs through our Spay Our Stray program. It's funny, the original name of the volunteer group, Spay Our Stray, became our first program of Animal Friends. And that has been, I think, the biggest success story that Animal Friends has been able to do. The amount of money that our community has raised to get these dogs sponsored, spayed and neutered, vaccines, microchips,
medical needs.
Any medical need. We've done eye enucleations. We've done amputations, orthopedic surgeries, dental procedures,
mass removal.
Almost anything that has come through the shelter here that needs medical attention. And anyone who's a pet owner knows how costly the vet bills can be. They know how much dog food is, and it's hard to keep up with it. I feel bad for families that are having a hard time surviving on their own, especially with the economy that we have right now with inflation and just being able to make ends meet with their bills at home. And then on top of it, they have to care for their four-legged family members that don't have the benefits that humans have of having health insurance or having access to good health care all around. So it's a testament that Animal Friends has been able to maintain, not only start a program like Spay Our Stray, but maintain it and actually grow it. And as the funds keep coming in, more services they're able to provide for these dogs. And it's amazing to hear the testimonies of when these dogs leave the animal shelter, how they've came from dirt roads as stray dogs that were dirty, that had internal parasites, they had problems, they had hip problems, and as they leave the shelter, they may not be 100% tip-top shape, but what Animal Friends has been able to do to sponsor them has made them so much more adoptable, and they've experienced love sometimes for the first time in their life, and that carries on with their forever homes. Animal Friends is, I can tell you, as speaking as the president of Animal Friends for our board, it is amazing to see how far we've come, and none of us, including me, who was one of the founding members of Animal Friends, didn't think our group would grow this big to now where we're doing an educational podcast. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
That
it
is
is.
pretty cool. And
It is.
getting people like Kelly on board. That I need you to talk a little bit more about yourself, honey, because you are amazing.
Well, I appreciate that. It's been a phenomenal journey so far in these short months that I've been here. But it is definitely a passion, especially growing up on a dairy farm and being around animals my whole life. My career in itself did not bring me to this, job or volunteering until after I retired. My career was actually in law enforcement, most of it. I worked for the state for 35 years altogether with several different hats, I would say. I started out was Craig Developmental Center, and I went to industry school for boys in Rush Henrietta and worked with juvenile delinquents. I then went to Department of Corrections, was a correction officer. I was at Greenhaven in Attica, and eventually finished my bachelor's degree in psychology, took the test and became a parole officer. I started in Brooklyn, and then I was in Rochester as a parole officer, and then I was promoted to investigator about 3 years or so into being a parole officer. I had 2 offices, one in Rochester and one in Elmira. And I was deputized with the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force for the Western District. So it was a very fun job, I would say. Maybe not fun for some, but it was great for me. I loved it. I loved the investigations. But this is another path. Since I've retired, this is a path where I have a lot of passion in as well with the animals. So there was a question I want to ask you, Sam and Justa, that I found since I've started volunteering. There's a lot of confusion sometimes when I'm out at events. People come and ask, and I may not be well versed in everything so far. I'm trying to, catch up to a lot of stuff. But a lot of people ask, what's the difference between SPCA and the dog shelter or the dog control or animal control? And so I try to explain it a little bit, but maybe you can explain it better to our fans out there.
I can. Do you want me to do that?
Yes.
So the SPCA is a non-for-profit organization, and they cannot take surrenders or strays. Well, they can take surrenders, but they cannot take a stray in. They are not authorized to take in municipal dogs that are strays. So that's what they work with. And they, in our county, are very, very invested in the cats, which is good. We need that. The animal shelter, our shelter is municipally owned. We're a municipal shelter for 16 different towns. It's a contractual agreement they all have signed. And this is where all strays go. So if someone finds a stray and takes it to the SPCA, they call us to come and pick it up. So we are funded, the building and my salary, Daryl's salary, is funded through taxpayer dollars. So it is by law, every town has to have a shelter. Now, some have individual shelters. Some small towns have a small little garage they've rebuilt. In our particular case, we have one building that takes care of 16 towns, and it's become feasibly more financially feasible for each town to be able to. You could take a little town like the town of Eagle or the town of Bennington to have them have a shelter with their own animal control officer would be costly. So by all of us coming together and having one shelter, it's financially more feasible for the towns. So that is the difference. The SPCA is a non-for-profit. We are a municipal tax-funded shelter. So.
And the SPCA is not related in any way, shape, or form with Animal Friends of Wyoming County. We are completely separate entities. We have similar goals where we want to see stray animals get a better life, get better homes, forever homes, to be well taken care of, but we are separate entities. And that's actually one of the biggest questions I think we get a lot when we're at the Wyoming County Fair or any of our events is, are you the SPCA? Or we introduce ourselves as Animal Friends of Wyoming County, a nonprofit animal group, and immediately people jump to, so you're the SPCA, you work with the SPCA. And I had the I had the pleasure of meeting our congresswoman at Pike Fair recently, and she even confused us too. It's just a general thing out there that not too many people know about animal friends, and more importantly, not too many people know about the Wyoming County Animal Shelter. That's one of the things the Animal Friends tries to do is we're promoting the dogs at the Wyoming County Animal Shelter, and in doing so, we're kind of promoting the Wyoming County Animal Shelter. So everyone should know that they have their taxpayer dollars are going to a shelter like this that is taking care of dogs, and the volunteer group is raising money on pure donations to help keep taking care of dogs and things like that. So
Right.
it's something I hope that this podcast and this CHOW Project definitely does as part of the education. But it's one of the things that Animal Friends continues to do is get our name out there, get the word out there that your donations, when you send them to us, they are going to the dogs. That's one of the things about Animal Friends I'm very proud of that I started doing was creating a newsletter, a biannual newsletter. And I did that in part not just for the public to know what's going on, but also as a reminder for us and for us who work at the shelter, volunteer at the shelter, are members of Animal Friends, that we do a lot of stuff that sometimes gets under the radar. We don't always get our name in the paper, and when we do, we're very grateful. But our group we have 8 board members that we have, and each one of us take on a specific task or part of Animal Friends. We do a lot for our community just by helping the dogs here at the animal shelter. And that newsletter, if anyone wants a newsletter, by the way, you become a member of Animal Friends of Wyoming County. I think it's $15 annually, and you get one of these newsletters mailed to you. And it comes out, I believe, every March and every September, and represents the last, 2 seasons from that. And it's quite the testament to see in there. Sometimes the newsletters get so big, we have to get special postage to send it out to you.
Right.
So, I definitely recommend everyone to become a member so you could be able to see some of the work that we continuously do. But yeah, that SPCA question is a very good question because we do get confused with them.
Yeah, I get asked that quite often. And with the SPCA, we try to work hand in hand. If they need help, they usually reach out to us. If they find a stray dog or somebody drops one off, they contact us right away. It's been a really good partnership with them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Some other confusion, I think, is because it's called an animal shelter, people believe that we have cats or other. What'd you have Saturdays? A lady, well, that was a mistake. She wasn't even in the right state, but she had cats and ferrets and rats and other things.
Like,
I
boy.
had a guinea pig call yesterday.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this facility only houses dogs, but the reason they are it's an animal shelter is because they're animal control officers, and they do more than just dogs. We don't house a dog. So if you want to
Right.
explain that, Daryl, or
Oh yeah, but we've had a little bit of everything come through here. I mean, last year I had a call in for a tortoise in a nursing home that I had to go
That's
get out.
right. I remember him.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. We've had to deal with
Bunnies, ferrets.
Yeah, cows, horses.
Yep.
A lot of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, even animal abuse situations involving other animals besides dogs.
Yeah.
so you take care of those situations, but they don't house here. Just
Right.
dogs house
We
here.
have had a
right?
few bee housed here because we've had to go in and they've been abandoned. So you can't just leave them hoping somebody will take
Yeah.
them. So we had a bunny for a while. And
We had an
The
iguana.
tortoise was lucky
we've had
for a
2
while.
iguanas here. Yeah.
Torque is now doing well too. By the way, he's
Torque the tortoise.
he's at his new home.
Yeah.
Most of the time, though, when we have like cows and horses and larger animals, we have a lot of assistance from local farmers in the area that will help us or assist us in least housing until we can get them to the proper facilities.
No, that's a good point right there because animal control deals with mainly your companion animals, like when it comes to mistreatment of your cats or mistreatment of your rabbits, and mainly dogs is the main focus too here because of the requirement by law for especially the licensing. That's one of the main duties, I believe, of the animal control officer, if I'm not mistaken. But you do get phone calls on animals like livestock, horses, cows, sheep.
Horses is a big one.
Yep.
That are just standing out in the field either in the dead of winter, and we're such a heavily agricultural county. That's the biggest joke for all of America, I think, that's heard of this now. since we had a native of Wyoming County actually go on The Voice one time and said this, and it's ranked. It's true. We have more cows than people in Wyoming County, New
Oh,
York.
yeah.
We do.
Last I figured it was 4-1. Yeah.
And the bigger
Yes.
these corporation farms get, the more we're outnumbered.
Yeah.
I grew up on a small family farm. We milked, I think, 150 head, which is really,
That's a lot.
it was a lot in the 80s and 70s, but nowadays it is
It's a
not.
small farm
It's
now.
very small
Yeah.
and hard to sustain anymore. But
So what do you
What
guys
we-
do when you get phone calls on someone that says that they see a couple
We hit the road.
a couple cows in the field? I want to get them checked out. I don't think they're being taken care of.
Yep.
What do you do?
We're on the road and we knock on doors to find out who the owners are and see why it's the condition that they're in.
Because
We've had given people 24 hours to bring in backhoes to clean out manure that only give the cow a foot before it was hitting the ceilings. They've stood in water halfway up their legs. We work with law enforcement. So if we get a call like that, we feel if we go and we can approach the farmer or the small little hobby farm that's having a problem making it, and we see resistance, or we from the very beginning we sense we need law enforcement involved. It sounds like it's going to be a big deal. We call and then we'll work with law enforcement, and they're actually the agency to charge anybody. But it's rare in Wyoming County that anybody's charged, because usually once you bring the attention to the animal owner that they need to upgrade what they're doing with their animals, they usually follow suit. They don't want to lose their animals. They don't want their name out there as bad animal owners. So we give them a little bit of a worksheet of they've got to, we want so much food in the barn showing how many months they can feed it. We want conditions cleaned up. We need a vet in there within, 2 or 3 days, and we need to be contacted when they come as a result. Especially like with thin horses, sometimes it's just their teeth that need floating, or their feet are in bad shape. And most of the time we have no resistance. They don't want to get in trouble, and it just is over their head. And they think having a horse is not going to cost them a lot. Little do they
I
know.
would say the majority of the calls that we see, a lot of that situation is that they get one animal and then one animal turns into 10 or 20.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, they don't know what to do. They
Yeah.
don't know how to get out. They don't know
Yeah.
what's going on. So we have to go in there and kind of give them a push and point them in the right direction to say, hey,
Yeah.
you need to clean this up a little bit.
And I think important thing for the community to know too, especially when you see an animal like that's out in the field or things like that. Some of these laws are on the books for ag and markets and in New York State in general. They were written like in the early 1900s and have never been updated. So there's sometimes what we would view in society, especially as how we should take care of these animals, whether they're livestock or equine or companion animals, even for that fact. Sometimes the law does not catch up with what the social norms are. And it has its benefits, it has its disadvantages, because no one wants overregulation, but at the same time, these are living creatures that need to be taken care of. So how do you guys find navigating those waters with complaints that come in or concerns that come in from the general public on things like
Well,
that?
you can't charge someone for something if it's not a law, just because I think it should be. My opinion is. So an opinion is not a chargeable offense. So you can't go in and say, yeah, your dog needs to have a cleaner bed if the house is dirty or whatever. But we only have the law as a guideline. So when it comes to some of the larger animals like cows and horses, ag and market's pretty vague on whether they have to have housing. But we always recommend that someone puts up a lean-to, a windbreak, something, and most people go along with that.
There's a very large divide between your household pets and what is considered livestock in the laws. Your household pets will have much more regulations compared to livestock. Livestock is very limited.
Yeah.
And we see that a lot. A lot of people think, I see this horse out there. It's supposed to have bedding. It's supposed to have a shelter. It's supposed to have food. It's supposed to have water. It's supposed to have so much of this. And if you go and look in the laws, they're just not there.
Yeah, there are some things that aren't there. That doesn't mean we can't work with it, because we suggest, would you like to stand out in the cold? Do you think that it needs some kind of shelter or some kind of windbreak? Before you know it, we've got them, rooted to the right direction. Most people care enough about their pets. They really don't want anything to happen to them. They just didn't see it. You know, it was the way it used to be back in the 40s and then the 50s. My grandfather had a horse on this farm. Why can't I have a horse on this farm? I don't have to have a barn, you know. So, but most people know they should do something
Yeah, the
more.
older generation is still very prevalent in this county.
Yeah.
The old ways of doing things, a lot of people it's starting to come around, but we still got a ways to go yet.
And that's just not livestock, just livestock too. Like when you started, Justa, there was this what we would consider nowadays a backwards thinking of how to treat a dog. And under the law, and correct me if I'm wrong, they are deemed more as property than a family member, but societal norms today would deem them more of like a family member. That's why we commonly refer to them as your four-legged furry family member most of the time. But in reality, what they used to do even back in the 90s would be deemed barbaric today to dogs that legally was allowed.
To chain them up to the side of a barn for their whole life. Yeah, we discourage that. We don't adopt anybody who can't clearly show us that they could be a good pet owner. And if we find a dog that's isolated, and we go talk to the dog owner, and oftentimes they just didn't know what to do with the dog, or they didn't realize it was that big a deal because that's what they grew up doing, and their grandparents did it. So there's much more of an awareness than there used to be. The dog house in the yard now is more of a planter. Or they might have a runner out for it while they're gardening, but they don't live out there. We find very few outside dogs anymore, and we discourage that. I don't adopt to people who are going to make their dog an outside dog. They come in here and say, well, we're not going to keep it in the house, but we've wanted a dog. We've always had a dog that lived, somewhere on the property, and like, no, we don't do that. Yeah, there's been a few herding dogs, Shelties. Well, not necessarily Shelties, cow dogs of some kind, or cattle dogs that prefer to live that way, but we encourage them to be inside, outside. So if they're going to work on the farm and follow the tractor along, I have no problem with that. But at night, when everybody goes in by the fire, the dog should be able to have some place to go in where it's warm,
And by the way, what you're hearing in the background there isn't one of our resident dogs. It's actually a clock.
that barks every
We love
hour.
animals so much, we have clocks that bark.
You'll hear a lot of interesting noises. You stand around here long enough.
So in the future, when we do these podcasts, we're going to start reaching out to our members via Facebook or something that you can ask us or call in for questions when we have a topic. So right now, this is our launch of our first podcast. And
It's your 7-year anniversary, right?
Yeah,
7 years.
yeah. So
Yep.
what is
December
it?
4th was our 7th year.
December 4th would be 7 years as Animal Friends.
As a 501c3.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as Animal Friends started. So Animal Friends, when we got together and we decided 7 years ago in December, to become Animal Friends, that's when we had our first board meeting. We decided on the name, the logo, all that stuff was going on there. It wasn't until like a year or two later, if I remember, I think it was 2017, May of 2017, we actually became 501c3 incorporated, and then we started getting the tax exempt status all over the place, and we were allowed to, per the IRS, act as a 501c3 while we were getting that paperwork done. But believe me, that paperwork I could not have done alone, so I will always be thankful to Bob Graham, who was the president when we started, for getting that paperwork done, because I had a hard time wrapping my head around all of that paperwork, and thankfully he had done it before. And after the paperwork part was done, he decided his time was done and passed the baton over to me, and I've been the head of Animal Friends, I think, since 2017. So it's been
Awesome.
It's been quite the journey. So
You're barely out of high school.
I was barely out of high school. Yep.
Yeah.
I grew up around this place. This is
Yeah, tell us your bio.
Yeah.
Who do you
your
belong
bio.
to?
Who am I microchipped to?
I'm sure
So-
she would like to disown him a few times.
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
So I, obviously being Justa's son, her youngest son, her favorite. No, just kidding. Sorry,
Edit
guys.
that, Ike.
I basically grew up here at the animal shelter. I would come here and volunteer. During the younger years, it wasn't really volunteer. It was, we don't have a babysitter, so you're coming to work with me type thing. But I grew up around here. I saw the changes that made what my dad did to help build this facility. I saw what the old animal shelter was, the what was described as a rundown chicken coop of an animal shelter that was not inhabitable for
We
any
used to play up there.
any animals to come in. Yes, yeah, and those were sad times. Those were kind of horrific times if you really think back at how things were done and treated when you started, Mom, and where it's come to now.
I try
So
not to even think about those years, but just be grateful we're where we are now.
it's
you
a
know.
big testament to anyone who walks in through the shelter, and I encourage every Wyoming County resident to come and at least say hi and just walk around your local animal shelter, because there's the upgrades that have been done to this facility through grants, through just donations and hard work. It's just, this is an amazing facility, and it's a true testament to what Wyoming County at large can do. And
Yeah, and you
I've
should
had the
visit. You
privilege.
should visit. Yeah.
I've had the privilege of seeing it firsthand, so it's been quite an honor to be part of this. So that's a little bit of my bio in a nutshell. I don't have too much to go on from from there, but
Well, where do you work?
where do I work? So apart from volunteering at the animal shelter and volunteering in Animal Friends, I work at the Perry Veterinary Clinic. So animals are my life. I think that's the best way to describe me in a nutshell. I'm always surrounded by animals. There are times I like animals more than people, so I'll take that any day. No offense to humans, but it's been a journey, and I've learned a lot. Just even being a small town, I don't know if they would call it themselves a family business, but the Perry Vet Clinic, it's kind of big for our area, but in retrospect to the animal hospitals that are out there, it's kind of like your small town vet to a degree. And I've had the privilege of amazing coworkers, amazing managers, amazing doctors have become best friends of mine, and I can't wait to invite all of them to come on this podcast, because this is gonna be epic. Just saying, everybody, you better stay tuned for a lot of that stuff, because we're gonna have some fun.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll make sure that you know about our upcoming topics. So if you want to ask questions, you can send a message to us. We can read it on the air, or at some point we'll get to a point where we can take phone calls as well.
Yeah. For right now, the best way to get your message into Animal Friends is becoming a member. We're limiting it to the members that have donated their time, their finances, their money, things like that to us. Again, it's only $15 a year to be a member. We have one of our board of directors. She is our member director. Her name is Lisa. She'll personally reach out to you, welcome you with emails, monthly emails to keep you up to date. And when we have these podcasts coming up, she'll be sending out those emails saying, hey, we have so-and-so as a special guest coming on next month. You have until this date. Please send us your question, email us in your question. And so right now, the general audience questions are going to be exclusively from our members. So I encourage everybody to become a member of Animal Friends. Other than that, is there anything else you want to add before we get to more of the conclusion to our first podcast here? And by the way, our podcasts, they're going to be, it depends on the subject. Some of them might be long, some of them might be short. This one might be, in retrospect, relatively short until we get, like when we talk about certain medical issues, there's certain other topics and a broader range. The educational videos are great to watch that we're going to be putting out on our YouTube channel and our Rumble channel and our social media accounts, but they're just a little sliver of what you're going to get. They're a great visual aid for everyone to look at, learn something new from it in a small setting. But if you want to get into more of those conversations, more of the in-depth stuff, that's where this podcast is going to come into play. So I'm excited with the lineup that we have currently scheduled. I don't know, should I announce one or two of the guests we have coming up in the next
Yes,
If
few
you know.
months? Yeah, so we are blessed with having an equine and animal photographer that's going to be joining us. She's actually volunteered at the Wyoming County Animal Shelter multiple times, worked with Animal Friends for a number of years now, and she has her own business called Jamie Pankow Photography. So she is in line to be one of our next guests for this podcast. And I am so excited. She is an amazing, incredible human being, and I can't wait to talk to her about her life, about her photography, about what she's done for the community, and the numerous times she's donated to the animal shelter and helped Animal Friends out with our adoptions. She's just an amazing
And
person.
she's a farm girl too.
Yeah.
She
she
is a
is.
farm girl from Pankow Farms. Amazing family. amazing family. I had the pleasure of calling them my neighbors, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Besides that, we have veterinarians are scheduled to come on to our podcast where we're going to talk about certain animal health issues and things that they really want to send a message out there to the community of like awarenesses of diseases or things that are out there that can affect your pets. And most importantly, what you could do as a pet owner to prevent those from happening. And I am very excited to see the likes of Dr. Sims from Perry Vet, Dr. Kate Capel from Perry Vet. They are all scheduled to come on. They'll be coming on over the next couple months. And I'm just excited. I'm super stoked to have them on here. And I'm very happy that we had Officer Justa Goodell and Deputy Daryl Klump to be on as our first podcast. This is a great way to introduce animal friends in the Wyoming County Animal Shelter to the whole world, to Wyoming County, and to the world at large. So definitely follow us on our social media and like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you know all the ropes, all the things. We'll have our handles wherever you find us. So in conclusion, do you have a special question, or I'm sorry, not question, but do you have a message for our audience that you'd like them to take away from this podcast?
Sure. Just remember, locally, your money goes a lot further than it does if you send it in a more of a global event. Lots of times we see those SPCA commercials, and they're great to see, and they do remind us of the neglect there is out there. But when you send in $100 to an organization that's far away from home, you don't know really where that money is going. But I can tell you, when you do it locally, you can look at this building and watch the dogs leave here on leashes, all healthy and into new homes, and your money's going there. So, and also be sure if you've had a good experience with the animal shelter, and whether it be through Animal Friends or Daryl and I, running the office here, that you let the Board of Supervisors know in Wyoming County the work we do, because they only get the calls that are when people aren't happy, and they're rarely from our department. But if there's a pothole or a deer carcass that lays too long in front of a yard, or they just don't like the way the county vehicles are parked, and having lunch for that 20 minutes they get to stop and eat, they get those kind of calls. But they don't always get the calls that say, I had a good experience with so-and-so at the shelter. We adopted a dog from the shelter, and the Animal Friends and Justin Daryl handled us with only the best of hands. So if you've got a good success story, let the Board of Supervisors know. Share your love for your new pet and what you experienced here. And remember to donate locally. A lot of people donate far, far away places, and you're never really sure how much of that goes to the dog. Right. And at least here, you know where it's going, and that's important. So. And
on that note, we are recording this right now, the end of November 2022. And Kelly, I think, has the number here of how many dogs just in 2022 have Animal Friends sponsored so far, or how many are we estimating? Because we have a couple going in for surgery for the next month.
So there's still going to be more probably before January 1st. So we're up to approximately 100 dogs that Animal Friends of Wyoming County in itself has spayed, neutered, provided needed surgeries for, microchips, you name it, whatever they need, they get. And we love our animals that are here. But I also want to say, this was throughout my career and things that I see, people love their dogs, their pets, sometimes more than they do love people. And it's a joke that a lot of us say, but humanity, to me, has fallen off a little. So if people aren't exactly taking care of their pets properly, it may be because they can't. They don't have the means to it. And I do stress, if you're going to get a pet or a dog, that you have the means to take care of that dog. Like we had done a video earlier today, approximately $2,500 a year to properly take care of that animal. And that doesn't include accidents. God forbid the dog gets hit by a car or comes down with an illness or a disease. I mean, that could obviously go way over that. Mm-hmm. But people aren't always kind to other people. And if you see a situation where maybe the dog isn't getting enough food or this or that, it may not be an abuse case, but you could always reach out to us here at Wyoming County Animal Shelter, and we can see if we can maybe assist those people in need with some dog food or education or something. So we need to be a little more humane. Let's say humane to each other.
To each other. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and of course we all love our pets, but let's love each other too. We need that.
It's a good message. It's a good message for everyone to remember. And Officer Klump, Deputy Klump, do you have anything you want to leave the audience with today?
Adopt.
Definitely come in and see us. We could always use more people to fill out applications, more volunteers to come in and assist, and more people to adopt for sure. That would be a very good thing down here.
Yeah, we have a really good system here at the animal shelter of how they screen applicants to adopt dogs. And so rest assured, the dogs that do leave the facility here is 100%, almost 100% foolproof that they are getting the best life when they leave here. And thanks in part to Animal Friends, we've helped start that process here at the animal shelter. And I guess the biggest thing I want to leave everyone with today who's listening to this podcast is don't think about it when people say, oh, I need to take the dog to the animal shelter, as that's a bad thing. That's not always a bad thing. Circumstances happen in people's lives where they can't properly take care of their dog anymore. And it is one of the most humane and best things in the world to just reach out and say, I need help. And if that means that they can't have their family dog anymore and it could go make another family happy and gives that dog a second lease on life that they can't provide it, that is okay. I don't think that anyone should degrade anybody because they couldn't make ends meet and they couldn't keep their family dog and say, what about the children and all that? There are a lot of factors that come in to play when people have to surrender a dog. So to piggyback a little bit off of what Kelly just said, just have some humanity for these people. And
to jump off that before we close, if you find a dog that's a stray, by law, it should come here. If you're interested in adopting it, you tell us right from the get-go. If no one claims it, we want it. Then we'll tell you the process so you can get it. But to harbor it in your home as a stray is considered unlawful because you are harboring someone's property. And we hate to see people get in trouble. So they're safe here. It's not the old county pound where everything gets put to sleep. Rarely do we do that. There are only exceptions that make us have to do stuff like that. But if you find a stray and you want it, you tell us you want it, and we will put your name on it. And when it goes through the 7-day cycle of being here and not redeemed, we know that it's an available dog to be adopted. We'll notify you. You come down. If you've changed your mind, sight out of sight. Sometimes you get to thinking, did I really want that dog I found? That's fine too. But if you wanted it, and we've just experienced that twice in the last few weeks, where we've had people who they wanted the dog, but they knew if they didn't surrender it here by law, they were unlawfully harboring it.
Back in the past too, we've seen it go the other way as well, where people have kept the dog at home, come to find out that an owner does come forward and it can go completely south really quickly.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, I think that's a point we definitely need to stress to the community at large, that it is illegal. If you find a dog that's wandering around in your backyard, on the street, and it doesn't have any identification, you can't find the owner, it's one thing you could take it in your house and then make the phone call. It's another thing to take it in your house and not call and then claim it's your dog because you just found it. Dogs have laws about them specifically, and that is not legally your dog. There is a legal process for you to go through. It's like if you find a child wandering around the street, you don't take the child home and say, oh, nope, this is my little girl now. You can't do that with dogs too.
No, our property, you find a snowmobile along the road, you just can't take it home. They're our owned, registered, licensed too. And if they're not licensed and the owner comes forward, they get licensed before they leave here. So, I mean, that's one of the things we have to do. So if they say, oh, you've got my German Shepherd, and I'm like, yes, we do. And I'll say, just bring his license, and whatever the fee ends up being, if it's the first time, it's one fee. If it's been more, and bring that license with you. And now I don't have a license. Well, you get the license because then I know it's legally your dog. So no dog leaves here without a license, no matter how young. And also that shows ownership. So if you adopt a dog from our shelter and take it home, and it does rip up the linoleum because you didn't keep it where it should be the first few days getting used to a new dog. You can't come back onto the shelter, the county, and say, you got a floor you got to put in, because legally it is your dog. So we've gone through all the loops to try to make it as soundproof as we can. And
Or a simple analogy as I think that's the right word using there, of someone just walking into your house and taking the dog and walking away, and they you call the 911 and say, my dog's been stolen. What they're going to ask for, what animal control's going to ask for, where's your proof that that's your dog? Do you have a license?
Now, how
Do you
many
have
times
something in your name?
we've had that happen?
A license is the legal proof that all town clerks, all animal control officers, all
Law
judges,
enforcement.
justices, anyone in law enforcement, when they see that and they see your name attached to that dog's name and that dog's description, that is your legal proof that that is your dog. So no one can just take little Isabel and you can't find her again.
Right.
So there's a big reason to licensing your dog, even though it's a pain in the butt. We get it. We don't want to have to do any more
really not that
registration. I know, but
It's not that hard
of all
to
the
go to the
things you
town
have
clerk.
to worry about, you don't have to worry about your dog licensing
Right.
too. There is a point to the law. There is a
Right.
point to that, and just follow it. Just do it.
yeah,
Otherwise, you're gonna get these two amazing people knocking at your door.
at some point.
Yep, it will happen. If you think you're getting away with it now, watch out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in conclusion, I think I'm just gonna give a couple little kind of special announcements here. By the time this podcast airs, it'll be 2023. So happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year.
Also, aside from that, if you are local in Wyoming County and you want to find other ways to support us, obviously anyone anywhere could go to our website, animalfriendsofwyco.com, and click on the donation tab. You can even click on the programs and projects tab, and that you can select which program you want your funds to go to. And donation is through PayPal. You could use a major debit or credit card, and if you're local in Wyoming County and you want to support us in another way, there are many businesses that want to support us and are helping us with an ongoing fundraiser of candy bars and meat sticks, and they each go to specific programs and projects that Animal Friends has. So you're at your local town clerk's office or your local pizza shop or your hairdresser, you might see a sign or candy bars that say, donations go to Animal Friends of Wyoming County. That helps us out tremendously. And if you're local here in the Perry, Silver Springs, Castile area, Pizza Depot in Silver Springs, I'm going to give a shout out to them because over the past year, they have on Wednesdays, if you order a large pizza, they give a portion of those proceeds to Animal Friends of Wyoming County, along with some of the other things they've done throughout the years too. So support us in that way. Support a small business while also supporting a nonprofit like us. And Kelly, do you want to name some of the places that you can find these candy bars and meat sticks and special acknowledgments?
Yeah. So currently, these are the businesses that have them now. And if you would like to be one of these businesses, feel free to call 786-8938 and let us know. And we will get some candy bars and or meat sticks out to you. For right now, Town of Gainesville, Town of Warsaw, Town of Perry, there's at the clerk's offices, A Cut Above, Pizza Depot, Warsaw Meatpacking, Hands and Hearts, Montgomery's, Daryl's Pizzeria, Lori's Hair, Marquardt Brothers at the parts counter, Town of Arcade, Village of Arcade, and Hayden's Tax Services. Those are welcome to the public to go in and purchase candy bars and meat sticks. We have some supporting businesses that do carry the meat sticks and candy bars. They sell just to employees at Wyoming County Community Hospital, Wyoming County Health Department, Warsaw Dispatch at the jail, the courthouse on the second floor, and Perry Vet Clinic.
Mm-hmm.
So
amazing businesses that like our mission and want to help support us, and we hope you become one of those businesses too if you're a local small business. And if anyone who has a business or wants to get their name out there more, we are more than welcome to more than happy to have you as a sponsor of the podcast, of the CHOW Project, of anything like that. We're hoping that part of the CHOW Project is a coloring book. We were very successful in doing one coloring book that we worked with local kids at, I believe, Letchworth Elementary
Yes.
School, if I remember right.
first and third grade, I believe.
Yes, they were amazing. Those drawings were great. We're very thankful to those
Some
kids.
a lot better than I could do.
Oh my gosh, much better than I could do too. So we're hoping we could continue that with creating more of a coloring book and things like that, and just any way that we can help out in the community and just bring the community together. Even if you're not donating all the time, your finances, just donating your time or your input or anything that can help us, your God-given talents, that goes a long way to helping our mission. So thank you to everybody who.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yes,
Yes,
Happy
Happy
New
New
Year.
Year.
Thanks to everyone who listened to this podcast. We can't wait for you to join us next time and to join us on our endeavor in this Animal Friends CHOW podcast, and learn more about us on our website, animalfriendsofwyco.com. And yeah, we'll talk to you next time. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the CHOW podcast, hosted by Animal Friends of Wyoming County. To learn more about us, visit our website at www.animalfriendsofwyco.com. And if you're interested in adopting a dog, please call the Wyoming County Animal Shelter at 585-786-8938. This has been a production of Knox Luna Films, LLC.